Hey YouTube! Today we're taking a look at something old. No, not me. Not that old at least. This is the Dell Optiplex 755. It features a Core 2 Duo E8200 with 2 cores and 2 threads. This unit comes with 2GB DDR2 RAM at 800 MHz on a single channel. It did not come with a GPU, and it has only a 250GB mechanical hard drive, and all on an old Intel BTX form factor motherboard. I got this unit for free, so I thought, why not? Let's see what can be squeezed out of this old hardware. Before we get started, we'll be doing a quick cleanup and a few add-ons. Since this unit has been sitting in an attic for years, we do need to check if it works at all. Everything going well, we'll be seeing what's the best use case for this PC. After the cleanup, the next step is including a few upgrades. Sometimes people give away old components for free, and in one of those bags I got a few DDR2 sticks and this Quadro 600 GPU. So I decided to add another 4GB of RAM, going to 6GB total. The extra memory would definitely help here, and I decided to go with the Quadro because the only PCIe Express slot on this unit outputs 25 watts of power, which will limit any GPU that we can use here. I even tried to use the R5 GPU we tested on the Acer video, but Linux Mint would completely freeze after just a couple of minutes of use. Also, I got the Quadro for free, so why not? And for a final touch, I'm swapping the hard drive for this SSD. Since we're dealing with a very old PC, we need to keep our expectations with this machine low. Lower? Even lower? Yeah, about that, looks correct. It is great that it's working, but just with a basic casual use testing, and we can see the issues right away. Even with the SSD, browsing doesn't feel great. It takes some time to load pages, it feels pretty sluggish, and you won't have the best experience because the CPU is just that old. And keep in mind, we're already using Mint XFCE, which is a lightweight version that consumes less resources. Moving over to streaming, the issues pile up, with a lot of drop frames even on a 1080p video playback. Again, we are dealing with an old architecture 2 cores 2 threads CPU. There will be limits to what we can do here. And it definitely doesn't help that a GPU is constrained to 25 watts of power. Funny enough, the Novo drivers actually work better than the deprecated NVIDIA drivers for video streaming. So, if you have an old GPU like this one and don't really care about gaming, I would recommend the Novo drivers with the latest kernel. Of course, we're gonna do some gaming on this PC, but don't expect much. Again, only 25 watts of power on the PCIe slot.
Please, sir. I want some more.
However, I'm happy to announce that I finally have the perfect excuse to run some Roller Coaster Tycoon, and honestly, I loved this game back in the day. Full disclosure, I ended up playing more than I should for this review. Same with SimCity Freak, another one that I played a lot when I was younger. If this kind of old school 2D games are your jam, this PC will be more than enough to play them. But if you want to bump it up a little bit, Half-Life will run just fine. Even at 1080p, it's running at 60 FPS without any issues. Both the Novo drivers and the deprecated NVIDIA drivers have the same performance here. Also tried out Grand Theft Auto 3, 1080p working just fine, although you can see the CPU usage getting up there, while the GPU doesn't even come close to full load. Moving over to Half-Life 2, we are hitting that ceiling pretty hard now. Both the CPU and GPU are almost at capacity, running at 1080p low. On the Novo drivers, Half-Life 2 will struggle to keep at 30 FPS. With the NVIDIA drivers, however, there is an improvement of about 10 FPS. Playable for sure, but not an amazing experience. Let's try BioShock and... oh no. 3 FPS on the menu screen at a 1024 by 768 resolution. Yeah, that's not going to work. Yeah, I know the Quadro 600 isn't the proper card to use on games, but knowing that the CPU is maxing out way before the GPU is, I know that putting a better card here won't do much good. I'm gonna be honest, the idea here was maxing out this PC as much as we could, by adding a Core 2 Quad Q9400 with 4 cores and 4 threads, maxing out the memory at 8GB, and adding a GT710 with 2GB of GDDR5. I gave it a shot, but due to the obvious limitations we are working with, the upgrade is simply not doable. And this kinda gets us to the point of this video. Is this particular computer worth all the hassle? For today's standards, we will need to do a lot of changes to make this perform at a minimum level. So no, it's not worth it at all. Keep in mind, I got this SSD for $20 used, this adapter for the 3.5-inch bay for about $3, the GT710 for about $25, and the Core 2 Quad for around $10, which would make the total investment here just under $50. Remember our first Acer PC, the one I got for $20 only? That would be less than half than what we put into this project here. Yeah, sure, it was a very particular find, but I can guarantee you will be able to find a 3rd or 4th generation Intel for what I invested on this PC, even if you would need to put some extra money for an SSD and a discrete GPU. Here on the channel, I do value old hardware that can be put to good use, but I also recognize when something has outlived its purpose. Refurbishing will always be my main goal, but recycling is also a necessity when it comes to old machines like this one. With that said, is there anything else we could use this PC for besides taking it to a recycling center? Anything at all? Well, there is one thing that actually worked better than anything else during my testing on Linux and would be the only use case I would recommend using this PC for. Turning this thing into a retro gaming console with Battlesera. For this part of the video, I put the Core 2 Duo back in, kept only 4GB in dual channel, had the original 250GB hard drive back in because honestly, Battlesera will work just fine with it and we get double the space, and I'm actually gonna use the R5 340X on these testings. These OEM AMD GPUs are pretty cheap on eBay, so it would be worth getting one for something like this. And yeah, it works just fine. Let's get some games going. Needless to say, old consoles like the NES or Master System will be a breeze here. You'll be able to play anything you like from your collection, same with the Genesis and Super Nintendo. Battlesera is actually very user-friendly, it's pretty much ready to go once installed. It has simple options for enhancements like shaders, being able to configure per system or per game. The real test starts with the main trio, PlayStation, Nintendo 64 and Sega Saturn. First, we'll go with the PlayStation, because it's the easier and the more mature emulation of the three. With this setup, we'll be able to play any PlayStation title, and for most of them, upscaling to 1080p is totally doable. Now moving over to the Nintendo 64, it's running great even if you upscale to 1080p. You should do just fine with most titles on this system here. I thought we would hit a ceiling with the Saturn, but to my surprise, we managed to play it with the Yaba Sanshiro card upscaled to 720p. That made me wonder, is the ceiling higher? Can we go a bit further? Let's find out. The Dreamcast was the next logical step, and to my surprise, I was able to run it at native resolution. I don't believe we'll be able to do upscaling here, but the fact that it's running Dreamcast at all is really more than expected, even for easier to run games. I mean, can we do more? Can we? Nah, not really. Trying GameCube at native, completely unplayable with the CPU maxing out. But still surprising that it's running at all. In the end, the use case for a computer like this is extremely limited nowadays. I really wouldn't recommend investing in it, but if you ever encounter a giveaway, turning this into a retro gaming console is actually a decent option. And even though you would likely need a discrete GPU mostly for DisplayPort or HDMI output, you can easily find this card for $15 to $20 on eBay. But if this has no use to you, make sure that you take this to a proper recycling center so it doesn't end up in a landfill and professionals can safely dispose of the parts. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notifications button if you want to see more content like this. It would be much appreciated and it helps this channel grow. Do leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, or a thumbs down if I could do better in the future. Let the community know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!